update on the survey. I think we've gotten to know each other pretty well. I think over the past couple of months, so I think we can just get right into the meat of it. Which the first thing is the update on the community vision survey, and currently we are right about that 70 or 700 mark on responses. So pretty good, not bad. We'll probably roll over 1,000 within the next over the next week. We're averaging about 50 responses a day on the survey, and a very, very good completion rate. So the people that are taking the survey are completing it, so that's a good indicator that we didn't make it too long and too cumbersome. So again, continue sharing that. In your stack, it should be right under your agenda. Print off a flyer. So on that flyer, there's a couple of things. One, obviously, there's a real short description. And we have also the URL. So if somebody writes an ad or goes in the paper, they need to use that little URL right here. And if you plug that in your phone and write that in, it will take you directly to the survey. There won't be any landing pages, extra clicks, no advertising or spam. And we also have the QR code for the tech-savvy folks. Take your camera on your phone and scan it, and again, it'll take you there immediately with no interruption. Take these flyers and put them somewhere. That's a little take-home homework assignment. So find a place where you've got a high traffic area. It could be in a restaurant, it could be in a local business, it could be anywhere really. And again, like I mentioned, churches and things. Put these somewhere. You can copy it and put more than one up. But they can scan that, read it, go to the link, and take the survey. So the more we can get that out there, the better. And we're running until July 12th, and that's a couple of weeks, but that'll sneak up on us pretty quick. So we want to go ahead and really try to make a mad dash and try to break that 2,000, 2,500 mark and set a new record for our community vision survey here. And as I mentioned before in one of the previous meetings, Gilmer still holds the record for number of responses for any single county comprehensive plan in Northwest Georgia. So we'd love to break that record though again here in Gilmer County, reset a new standard. So again, great work on that so far. The next thing we want to do is move right into a critical element of our comprehensive plan and our plan process. As part of the planning elements, required elements of the plan and the Georgia Planning Act, we need an update on the rules for environmental planning criteria and on the regional plan. And we have Gretchen Lugthart here with our office. She's a senior planner with the Northwest Georgia Regional Commission and is our expert on environmental planning. So Gretchen is going to give us a presentation on the rules for environmental planning criteria, which is going to lead us into land use planning, which will be the second portion of the meeting today. Gretchen, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me? If I'm at this level, I'll try to keep it at this level. Yes, I've been with the Regional Commission for about 10 years doing planning. Usually I do Fannin, Polk, Catoosa, and Murray's plans. I've worked with those counties a lot of the time, and I've done grant preparation, and I have had opportunity to work on grants related to water here in the region, and I have a lot of interest in the water and the natural resources trails. I got to work on a little bit on those types of grants. So that being said, I want to start with the environmental planning criteria is what they call that. Back in the 90s or maybe early 2000s, this set of rules came out to help the cities and counties better address some of the critical types of landscape or habitat that occur across Georgia. The counties and cities were asked to adopt some ordinances and the wording, using the wording in here or changing them a little bit to help protect those areas. There's 5 different areas that are included in these. And these now, if you would look at these are like the minimum standards. You have 4 of those, and I'm gonna direct your attention to this map. It's very possible, Ethan, you might include this map in the plan?
Yes.
Okay, so this would be a map that would show the plan. And some of these types of areas, they don't change, but one of them can change based on the water use. So what we have on here is the National Wetland Inventory wetlands, which are just very small around in here. You guys don't have a lot of those. That could change, but probably won't. Protected rivers isn't gonna change, and the only one that you have that is large enough, it has to be 400 cubic feet per second. It has to be a true river and not like a stream. We have a lot of creeks, right? It has to be a river. So the Kusawati here is big enough, and so it's shown in blue as a protected river, and so the corridor of that is supposed to have certain things that don't happen there, or they have to be more regulated. Protected mountains, of course, that's not going to change, and those are your higher elevation mountains that are more than 25%. That's just how it's defined as a protected mountain. So this would be over 2,200 feet of elevation. So as you can see, the brown on this map is forest service. Most of that is on the forests. So it's like it's already protected. But you have a few areas here, and there's certain restrictions on what you can do up there, just little bits, really. So you have that. The one that can change is your water supply watershed. So this is supposed to be, and it shows, this is effectively pink. It shows up really well, but it's 7 miles in a radius, 7-mile radius above your water intake. So this is for you, your county, where your water supply watershed is. Of course, the watershed is bigger. You know, this is, you just have to look for the different restrictions and so on, just 7 miles in a radius upstream. This little bit over here is that water that Murray County takes out. And so you have a tiny bit of their protected watershed there as well.
Gretchen, what are some of the restrictions that would apply to that area? The restricted watershed area?
The water supply watershed.
Yes.
Some of those, and I don't have them all on the top of my head, they are in here, or you can look at your ordinances. They'll sometimes have to do with the size of the building lots, and they may have to do with how far the septic system is from, a water source and things like that.
So will you be giving us a copy of that?
Yeah, do you want this? But you also, the final word would be to look in your ordinance. But I do have copies of this, and you can look these up. Yes, I apologize that I do not have your particular ones memorized, the different restrictions. But yes, I can, if you want to look closely, this is set up, it just, like here's, the first one is water supply watershed. These, as I said, are, and you can pass those around, and for whoever wants to keep it, these are minimums, and really when you start to look at them, there's a lot of, like, if you do this, then you have to do that. They're not that strict, and some of them just come down to, don't put, say, a hazardous waste facility, in a wetland. It's kind of obvious you're not going to do that. So any one of these you could look at and say, maybe we should make it a little stricter, or think about it. Of course, that is a process of, going to your elected officials and rewriting things. I mean, it's a big process. For example, this area here that is the protected mountains, it has to be, right now your ordinance, is saying over 2,200 feet and 25% slope. You might say, well, we just want to protect all 25% slopes and say some things about what you can do on, 25% slope. How can you build on there? Do you not build on there? Do you leave a certain number of trees when you build on there? Is there a requirement? So I've got to keep it, this many away or something like that. So, you know, those are all possibilities. I digress, but this is a good question that you asked. In May, I went to a workshop related to wetlands protection. The Supreme Court, I guess it would be in 2023, had a decision that a lot of the jurisdictional wetlands across the U.S. are, in certain situations, are no longer actually protected. So you have wetlands that no longer fall under these jurisdictional protections. And some parts of Georgia, particularly in South Georgia, might want to make ordinances, say, at the county level or city level that protect some of those areas that are not now protected federally. And in going to that workshop, I did learn that a lot of the stuff in North Georgia, which would be our area, a lot of the stuff, the wetlands in our area are still under that jurisdiction. A lot of the wetlands that kind of fell out of being protected would be ones that don't have obvious outlets, like maybe there's an underground outlet, like there's not above ground water outlet, and there's a lot of places on the coastal plain where you have these ponds and so on, Carolina bays and things like that. But up here, not so much. So you may or may not want to do that. But there's a ton of information, and I can, if you're interested in any of that, I can get you in touch with some of the folks at UGA who are dealing with that in the law school and so on. Okay, so yes, there's a lot of interesting stuff here. Any comments? No?
I think you covered that.
Okay.
If I might, just for the benefit of the group, we already do watershed protection and the mountain. We have those districts delineated in our ordinances, and there is quite an extensive review that goes into that. And you can go online and pull those ordinances up that will define the different watersheds that we have and the mountain protection district, and what the requirements are there. We adhere to it pretty strictly. And Gary here next to me is director of the Water and Sewer Authority. So it's all about protecting our natural resources of water. And one of the things that has really changed in recent years is the individual review of what we call E&S plans. That is a developer like Patrick here, or a builder. If he's building on a piece of property, today he would have to prepare what we call an E&S plan, an erosion and sedimentation plan, that tells him how he has to go about protecting that construction site to prevent the stormwater runoff into our streams.
That's great.
Yeah.
You have all,
All of those
covered.
are in place.
Right, you have the four
They're
types
all
that
in.
you do have, yes.
Yeah.
The one that you don't, number 5, that you don't have, groundwater recharge areas, you don't really have any of those, and that's your geology here. In parts of the, in Northwest Georgia, there's a lot of areas like that where you have some limestone and rainfall and so on can get into the water table there, and it's a good thing that it does, but those areas are more susceptible to groundwater pollution when you have that kind of geology near the surface. So you don't really have that type of geology. So you did not adopt that that groundwater protection. You can see, I did, it's not on the map.
That is more and more of a concern, because
Groundwater.
subdividers, developers are using public water systems. In other words, they will drill wells and provide the infrastructure of piping and to serve individual lots, tanks and everything. Well, that draws from that underground aquifer, you know, and that is more and more prevalent in the county. So that, it is something that we need to consider. I've had a number of people question me about, what are you doing to protect the underground aquifers in our county? Right now, we do not have provisions to do that.
Right, yes, because, yes, on the map, you don't have those areas of limestone, but yes, you still have, further down, there's water to be had, and how would you protect it? It's just that it's, with the layers that you have, it's a little harder to contaminate it, say if you were in, like, well, Whitfield County's got a lot of it, Polk County.
For the benefit of the group, public water systems and wells have to be approved by EPD, and their source, and then the number of connections. So, gosh, I could spend a half a day just talking about that.
Thank you so much for
Okay.
clarifying some of the details that for your individual county, I don't have all of the details. But I know you have lots of issues with development and with the steep slopes. There's a lot going on there. So next I'd like to talk about the Coosa, North Georgia water plan. This is what it looks like if you were to, print it off. You can find this on the website of the, well, you would just look up Coosa, North Georgia, or you would look up water planning. But here is a copy that I can leave with one of you guys if you want to have a copy. That's great. I can take those.
Everybody's should have in their stack, one page, so it's got the link and everything.
Yeah,
on
it
there.
has the link. I can leave that with you for your process. Yes, there's a piece of, yeah, you guys have that one.
It's in your stack.
A summary of also the most recent update of that. So this whole planning process for water, the first state plan was in 2008, so that covered the entire state. And then the state was divided up into regions, and each region was supposed to develop a water plan as well. So the first round was 2011, and then updated in 2017. I think it's like about a 6-year update period, and then they have just last year come up with a new update, 2023. So that is what you've got right here. There's a lot in there. It's about 178 pages. There is a lot that goes into that planning process. And so it is many pages long, and really a key is to look at the summary of that. That is the easiest thing, but then you can delve into more of that. So water is very important. I think right now you folks have a pretty good supply of water. Of course, you do, as you pointed out, you're digging some wells and things, but population-wise, you don't really have a water crisis in any way, and you're sort of you're a water source, really, way up here in the mountains. You're at the top of the watershed. And of course, that creates some tension with folks further down who might want some of your water. And as it goes on then, to Carter's Lake, of course, Murray County uses it, but where then does it go on? Coosawattee flows on, and Gordon County uses water there, and then you keep on going and you get to Rome. Well, that enters the Oostenaula, and you have Rome, where they have water supply there as well. So, and then on down into Alabama. So you're a source here, and and that's a good thing for you because you can regulate the quality. You're not necessarily being sent somebody's already used water. It's a pretty good situation to be in. And some counties do, there's a lot of headaches to being downstream. And of course we know, I just mentioned quickly, where some of the water goes here eventually down to Rome and then into the Coosa River, and that's Alabama. That particular basin, there has been conflicts with Alabama for many years, and just recently they have moved closer to a solution there without going to the Supreme Court for the Alabama-Coosa in December. They're going to work together on trying to manage that water better. But the other basin of interest that you have probably heard about, the Chattahoochee Basin, having disagreements with Florida, Georgia and Florida disagreements about the use of that water and what Florida gets. That did go to the Supreme Court. That was decided in 2021, really to Georgia's benefit, but in doing that, they didn't make more water. The Supreme Court didn't make more water to appear, so there's still issues there. So water is very, very important for development, for wildlife, for quality of life. You know, everybody just likes good, clean water for fishing and taking a walk and so on. So it's vital, really. So, and as I have it here, basis for tourism, residential, industrial production. You've got to have good water for that, as well as just a part of the natural environment. So the basin that, it's the red one? Yeah. Okay, yeah, so this is the water planning region that you are a part of, the Coosa, North Georgia, right here. And it's really more than one watershed. They didn't delineate it as a watershed, they more delineated it as a mountain region, except the Savannah River stuff. So there's water here that goes into the Tennessee Basin, and then the Coosa, and see there's a little bit of the Chattahoochee right there. So, but most of your whole county goes this way, of course, as you know. Coosawhattie, then into in the Conasauga, they join before the Oostenaula, and then Oostenaula becomes the Coosa when the Etowah comes in, and then you're here in Alabama, and then eventually it's you're going out here into the Gulf with the Alabama River and the Mobile Basin. So planning for the use of this water is very important for all aspects. And this organization that does this planning, EPD, and then they have a consultant, and then they have a council really that works on it. And Gary is one of the people on that council, and they get together quite often. We have a water partnership that gets together almost once a month to talk about water problems. And we, as a regional commission, help with that organization. So managing water, what is involved? Really, for this plan, there's now 5 things that they talk about. Good utility management, how are the utilities managed, and there's different requirements put on them. But we have water conservation, water supply, of course, how do you use or take care of wastewater, and how is it, what happens to it, and then of course overall water quality. So the questions that this plan answers really focus a lot on water use, but also on the environmental aspect. But it's very important to figure out how much water is in the region, how much are you using now, and that would be, I had that list of uses, which would be like municipal uses and industrial uses and some others too, agriculture, energy, those sectors, how do they use water, and then predictions on what will be needed in the future. when you look at population changes, housing changes, where are people living, where is industry located, where is their growth? What will be needed in the future, and how are we going to meet these needs? So when this modeling is, there's a type of modeling that the EPD uses for answering these questions. And they're looking ahead to this particular plan is 2060. So when they look at that and they look out and they see, hey, there's not gonna be enough of something by 2060, what are some of the things that they look at to answer the question of what's gonna happen? So this is the 5 things here. How are the utilities managed? And I think a newer thing for them is this asset management that they're required. They're required to do these asset management plans, like what are your resources that hit your facility, and how do they work, and what might you need to do more. So that's an important thing to look closely at how utilities are being run. And obviously a good utility facility is going to be in trouble if they're not doing a good job there. So that is good that they're being checked on, but they may already be doing a good job anyway, because if they're not, they're in trouble. Water conservation, that's fixing leaks in water lines and also educating people about water use around their home, outdoor watering restrictions. When it comes down to water supply, can existing reservoirs, can the capacity be increased? If you have a bunch of sediment in the bottom of your reservoir, it doesn't have as much capacity. So looking ahead and making sure, how are we going to keep the sediment out of that so that the capacity stays good in a reservoir? Creating new reservoirs, it can happen, but it sure is a process, and there are so many steps, so it's really good to do well on number 2, conservation. Interconnections between river basins, and this has happened in different parts of the country. The picture here is in Virginia that they're showing. That's the Neuse River, and let me tell you what the other river is. The area that they're talking about there is relatively flat, so making those connections is a little bit easier between basins. So that'd be Neuse River, Cape Fear, and the Haw River Basin. So you can see great big pipes moving water from one basin to another. Kind of a problem in topography like what we have here. not an easy thing, so that we're probably not going that way. How do we take care of wastewater better? Septic system management, I think you guys have a lot of septic systems out there. Sewer system mapping, and of course, in terms of water supply, you watch your construction sites. Forestry is well regulated in terms of people doing those voluntary best management practices and educating. And we've been talking quite a bit now with the water partnership with managing nutrients. So computer models are used to get the answers, and each time they do the plan, they try to adjust, changes and so on. So this is the most recent water plan. They did the assessments again using a new program that they call BEAM. That stands for that's the one that they use, but it's a new version of it. They talk to the stakeholders about what to change, and then they modify those practices, like the practices that we talk about here. They have a huge list of practices that they deal with. So this is just one quick thing that I wanted to show you between the 2 plans. So this is 2017, except they had 2015 data for the 2017. So just in this water demand, so this is the municipal, industrial, agriculture. In North Georgia, there's, as you know, there's not a lot of irrigation compared to some parts of the state. Not a lot of irrigation. But this huge sector here is energy. So that's a lot going into that. And you can see over here, down below in all that cooling water for, running that plant. So the allocation changed a lot. So it's really important to update these plans, because you see, you know, now there's a different allocation here, and you don't have to worry about, well, is there the energy there? So there's more than one benefit to closing these coal power plants. This is more water, down, and I guess that water's gonna go on downstream to Alabama. But I thought that was a really interesting change. When you read through that document, it's like, oh my gosh, there's a lot here, and then you come to that, and it's like, whoa, what happened? So, for your particular county, they evaluate all these factors for each county. Water supply, and I've just touched on wastewater and so on. Looking for challenges out to 2060. So Gilmer County being, and this is on your, you have these slides too. So this is, here's Gilmer County. So out to 2060, you do not have a problem in any of these. It doesn't say yes across here. So you're doing pretty good. Things look good. But then this one, assimilative capacity challenges for dissolved oxygen. So you're saying, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? That is, I looked into that, where that was. There is one of the streams that goes into the Carticay, and on the map, it appears to be Clear Creek, and so it is listed for pH, so this would mean that if you put something like organic matter into Clear Creek, it's already impaired, and the dissolved oxygen may dip below what it should be. Okay, so I think in pointing that out, it says, I don't think you have a huge problem there. Is just what I'm saying. It's not, you know.
For the benefit of everyone, Clear Creek primarily traverses all agricultural land, and that high pH comes from farm animals and wildlife and things of that nature. So Clear Creek empties into, and hopefully that pH level is diluted by the time
When it gets to the current.
again.
Yeah, so is it like it's a little bit acid, probably? Yeah, so it's got a low pH. Yeah,
pH.
yeah, like maybe
Yeah.
4 or 5 or
Yeah.
something like that, right? So this plan was able to key in on that issue, but it's not maybe the hugest of issues, but it would be something to work on. Yes. Okay. So my last slide here, and we'll move on real quick. These are some of the projects that our water plant has worked on. And some of these are really good. Redundancy and emergency interconnectivity study. In other words, if you have a water disaster in one part of the county or one city, are there connections so an adjoining water supply can get the water going there? What are the connections? So that's what that study dealt with. Not necessarily putting the connections in, but figuring out where the connections are. So that was a good little study that they did. A lot being done on the nutrient monitoring and nutrient trading. In Carter's Lake, which I can just, this part of Carter's Lake, it's impaired for, the algae counts are high, and that just is saying that there's a lot of nutrients going into it. And so this nutrient trading might help with improving the water quality of Carter's Lake, and there's many steps to it. So that's a really neat thing, and across the whole state, I think maybe we're making, in this region, making the most progress on that. Watershed protection plans, and those are required, and this stream prioritization tool is just a little program that shows you in a particular county which, if you're gonna try to get streams off the protected, the impaired list, which are the easiest to get off. And that is a good step on down to the next thing that I gave you, and then I'll be done. This is Gilmer County's compared water quality, and this is the most recent list, which is 2022, but that means it's the most recent list. So these are your streams that are impaired, and the reaches, it's not like always the whole stream, it'll be a section of a stream, and what they're impaired for. So the first two show your lakes that are impaired, and then these are alphabetical, but there's Clear Creek on there with a pH problem, and it goes into the Carter K. So I hand you this to show you that there are a few of them, and it is not easy to get these off, but communities have taken on the challenge of trying to basically would be clean up a stream. There are sources of funding for this, 319 grants which come through the EPD. If you have, a lot of these are fecal coliform. That can be helped by managing your septic systems and working with private landowners, and they'll get certain benefits. They'll get their septic system partly paid for it being pumped out, for example. You set these programs up. So you can get a grant and counties can do it. You know, you don't have to be another agency or something like that. The county directly can do that. So that's why I've included this list on here, because that's potential projects. Any comments or questions about that? And I'm done.
Anybody got any questions for Gretchen? We've covered a lot of material there.
Gretchen, if we have follow-up questions, how would we get back in touch with you?
Just the regional commission number. 706.
295-6485.
648.
So the tagline on any of the emails that come from me, my signature at the bottom, we have a number to the office, and there may be two numbers on there. We have two offices. We're all linked together. No matter what number you call, you'll get to us. We have live operators online, so you don't have to go through 20 minutes of press 1, press 2. So all you have to do is call and say, hey, you want to talk to somebody about environmental planning, or hey, you want to talk to Gretchen, and they'll get you in contact.
Okay.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate your attention on what is an important matter.